Hi everyone, welcome to our Claris FileMaker training course on how to build a custom CRM in 30 days. This training is designed primarily for beginners or those of you who need kind of a refresher with the Claris FileMaker platform. Over the course of 30 days, we're going to spend about an hour each day covering topics from the very basics of the Claris FileMaker platform in terms of the tools, the products, deployment, security, all those things you need to know about as you build a custom application. So keep in mind that towards the beginning of the training, the topics are more basic in nature. And as we get towards the end of the training, they're somewhat more advanced. I would say probably intermediate level topics. Now keep in mind this special part of this training is that while we're not only talking about the FileMaker platform, we're talking how you can rapidly customize an existing free CRM that you can download today. It's unlocked. So taking that CRM and customizing it to your organization's particular needs. Now, a couple important links to keep in mind. One is that if you need a copy of FM Starting Point, the free Unlock CRM, visit fmstartingpoint.com and press the button, and then our system will shoot you an email with the current links to that CRM. If you're looking for additional FileMaker training, visit fmtraining.tv and press the bundles button, and that will allow you to get more of this highly animated and somewhat energetic training material to help you through the learning process with the Claris FileMaker platform. Lastly, if you have questions about the FileMaker platform or you're looking for some additional help, maybe some one-on-one coaching help, feel free to email us at support@rcconsulting.com. Hello everyone, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. It is Thursday. Yesterday was Wednesday. Yesterday we started our conversation on relationships. So today is the ongoing conversation. Today and tomorrow, important announcement. So today is going to be on kind of the next conversation of organizing your relational diagram, the relational, like you have FileMaker, you put things on it, and maybe you just leave it alone. Maybe that's okay. Maybe you need to do that more. And we talked about this a couple days ago. It was always this question about performance. So this is one of those rare moments during this 30-day event that we have something that's simple to understand and also provides the highest degree of performance in your FileMaker solution. It really makes a big difference. So we're going to be talking about that today as well. So let's talk about the upcoming broadcast schedule real quick. So if you go to fmtraining.tv, you can press the live button over here. As a reminder, if you like the channel, you want to support us, what we're doing, we greatly appreciate the support. We do all this free stuff. Feel free to purchase one of our training bundles, right? If you purchase a training bundle, that gets you either the complete bundle or the video-only bundle. But if you purchase the complete bundle, you get my undying love. And you also get a free hour of coaching with one of our coaches, and you're helping to support the channel and pay everyone's salaries, which is really useful because Margaret and the other people that work for me don't work for free, right? So anyway, upcoming broadcast schedule today is Anchor-Buoy. Tomorrow, Me relationships. Monday is Memorial Day, so we are going to be off that day. It's at least in the United States. It's a pretty substantial holiday. And then we'll be back next week, probably continuing the conversation on scripts. I will be looking at that content, making sure it's appropriate. So it'll be a 3-day weekend for us this weekend. So that's that. Let's see. So once again, the training for today is really a lot of it is focused on, and this is a reminder, you guys remember the progression of learning, right? So this is the brand new developer. This is mostly targeted for you, right? And then some intermediate developers, and sometimes I cover things that intermediate developers somehow missed or have forgotten. I can't tell you how many times, either in the world of FileMaker or aviation, you learn some little obscure thing and then you forget it. And then you have to come back and like, oh, that's right. And that was an important thing. So you write it down. So the goal is for me to help get everyone comfortable here as a brand new developer and push you as far forward as you can. Keep in mind that not every day of this 30-day training is going to be what you need, so feel free to skip today if maybe tomorrow is more useful for you. So as you build a FileMaker solution, let's talk about this. So yesterday you learned, so let's talk about, it's basically, I have to cycle back and forth between these two graphics right here. The idea, so over here is like the business owner, business manager. They like the fact that you can save a lot of time and money with FileMaker. At the end of the day, they probably, if they're new, don't really care what you're using. You could be using little aliens from Mars as long as you save the company time and money or improved efficiency somehow. Then they don't really care. But after a while, they start to see the return on investment, right? So you invest, say, once again, this is not uncommon, 10,000 US dollars, and you're able to turn that into, say, 50,000 US dollars, right? That's a big deal. And so, and that's what FileMaker allows you to do. There's no point in using it if it's not going to save you time and money. Now, a lot of organizations say, we're going to save all this time, we're going to save all this money. And some of the staff are like, oh, we don't want to do that because our jobs will go away. I've seen that happen once in 33 years where someone's job went away because FileMaker optimized them out of a job. That's rare. It doesn't happen. Normally what happens is that, say a company has a budget of $50,000, right? And they spend 10,000 of it working on FileMaker. What they end up doing is that next block of money they have, they can go twice as far with this, or 3 times or 4 times as far as what they could do before. And so that staff can do more. The staff doesn't get removed or anything. They just do more. So they still work their 8 or 10 hours or whatever, 3 hours a day, whatever they work. They just get more done. And it helps the organization, right? And then, yeah, so the organization can do more with the same people. So, so the progression of learning is you're building a FileMaker solution. The progression of learning starts off where you're building a solution, you drag, and you saw this yesterday, connecting a couple what we call table occurrences. So in the relational graph, once again, as a recap, I'm going to start with, I have this contact management file right here. I'm going to go to File, Manage. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in one level here so you can see it. But if I go to File, Manage Database, going forward, I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut, my left hand. These are the tables right here, okay? So we have 2 tables. So you would think that the 2 would be connected. Now, I haven't looked inside this file. This file comes from 2008, but it still upgrades and works in FileMaker. It's just fine. And so, oh, that's right. This was the one that's kind of a little bit goofy. And so all the Ks and all this sort of stuff, some developers get really excited about trying to put little indicators in front of the names. We have a different way of a naming convention. Maybe a day we should spend on naming conventions. But at the end of the day, what we really care about is that we have a contact here, and then we have this notes one right here. And I think primarily these ones here are kind of disposable. I'm not sure why they're there. This is the main one that you care about. So this is the contact has a note. So this is we call notes. If I say okay, I come back down here, I go to notes, I go to layout mode. Yeah, it's the notes field. So there it is. There's the table. Did you guys do portals a little bit yesterday, Margaret?
No, he only used it to show a relationship. He didn't really explain what they were so much.
Right. Well, the idea of, yeah, that's once again the problem with me being here on day 2 and not seeing day 1. I want to make sure everyone follows what's going along. But the idea here is that I'm going to create a new file real quick. I'm going to create a blank file. I'm going to create a blank file. It's going to be called test on the desktop. Doesn't care about the keys and things like that. So we have a test table right here. So we have a contact. All right, contacts, change. So we have a contacts, let's say, and this is going to be notes. We're going to rename the notes table right here. We're going to change. We have 2 tables here. We'll start that again. We have 2 tables, and you need a unique field in each one. I'm going to delete all these fields here just to keep it simple. I'm going to go to that table. I'm going to go to this table. I'm going to delete all the fields. It auto enters some fields in here, but I don't want to have to dig through that because it's really goofy. I'm going to call it I'm going to call it ID notes over here. I'm going to define a field called ID notes, and I'm just going to say it's a number, and I'm going to say create, and I'm going to say option key, and I'm going to say auto enter a serial number, and we'll auto enter the number. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call it N1. And I'll change it to a text field, but I want to N1 and increment by 1. So it should add a 2 on the end of that. It should increment that right on the end. I'm hoping it should do that. I'm going to change it to a text field. And that way I know what I'm looking at. So a lot of times I create keys, especially when I'm training, and I'll put the table indicator or name or something or NOT and then the ID number on it. So you know when you see it, that's a primary key for notes because sometimes people get confused, right? And so if I go to contacts, I go to ID, I'm going to create an ID contact. So this is the primary key on each of these. And what you can do, if I say create, we're going to create it. I'm going to say options. I'm going to say serial number. I'm going to call it CON contact one, increment by one. So what you can do is put an underscore and a P over here. I don't know if it's an option P or a option shift P, a little squiggly P. How do you do the little squiggly P on there? I can't really do it that way. I'll just put a P like that. So that tells me it's a primary key. If I want to do it that way, I come back to notes. So we have a primary key, right? So I click on that. I say underscore P, little P. I'm going to change it. So what we have is a primary key. Now, the rub is that what we want to do is we want to be on a contact screen. We want to create a related note. And so the idea is that you're on contacts. So we're going to like pick someone to pick on. Brenda. Brenda knows what they are, or Mary, Margaret. So let's just do Brenda for now. So Brenda, that pick on you, you're going to be our example. Brenda's a person we want to communicate with. Every time we communicate with Brenda, email, SMS, phone call, Slack message, whatever kind of process you have you want to track, maybe you want to log those communications, you want to mark those communications. Now, in our free CRM, we've already done all this for you, but I'm trying to explain to you how we get there, how we build this stuff. And so the idea is that in contacts, if I go to relationships right here, so we have contacts over here, we have notes over here. So if we're in the contacts table, I'm just going to say it's the name of the person, it's a text field, maybe their email, address, maybe their phone. I'm going to create those fields. If I'm in notes, what we need to know is the note. The note. What is the note? The description of the note. And maybe a date. Now, I'm going to put a date in here just because I want to do this and demonstrate this. I'm going to say date right here, the date it was created. So that's kind of cool. So we have a date. It will auto-enter the create date. And so we go, okay. So we have a screen here of the note. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this for now. I don't know how far we're going to get today because of the relationship conversation. We may not even get to Anchor-Buoy today. We'll see what happens. So this is a note screen right here. It's a layout. A layout is attached to a table occurrence. I'll say that again. So that you have a table, or in the world of FileMaker, what we call a base table. Claris will intermittently use these words in the product. So if I go up here to layout mode, Command and Control L, if I look up here, it says table. There are times when they will call it a base table, but this says table. And so is this a base table or is this a table occurrence, right? It's kind of vague and it's aggravating, shall we say. So we go File, Manage, Database, and we take a look at the relationships, and you have notes here and you have context here. So why don't we name this, we're going to adjust these a little bit, and this thing is in the way. Okay, we need to cross-connect these two together. So once again, we have this model. Brenda is our person. We want to have one or more conversations with her. And so we need a way of connecting them. The problem is that the way we do that is that that the note has to know it belongs to a contact. So if you think about a contact, what is the hierarchy of the contact? Is the note more important than Brenda? Probably not. Brenda can have many notes. So really, logically, you have to put your brain in this mode. What's important? Like maybe the company, or maybe it starts with the person, then the company, and then the invoice and the payments. There's kind of a little bit of a hierarchy. You need to have that hierarchy in your mind. It'll help you mentally get through this. So Brenda is important. She's a person, and then she's going to have one or more communications. Each of those individual communications might be important, but Brenda is the essential item here. Okay, so this note has to somehow connect to Brenda. So we need a ID key in here we can connect, because really, if you look at them, and I go to we have note up there. I'm going to hide the panes right now, the left and right panes, because I need more room. I'm going to say new window. Notice whenever you make a new window, it duplicates the current window. It duplicates the current found set, everything. So this is a duplicate here. Whether I'm in layout mode or browse mode, it doesn't matter. It's a duplicate, but over here, I want to see context. So on the left side of the screen, I got contacts. On the right, I got notes. It's kind of orientated that way on the relationship graph for simplicity. Doesn't have to be, but I'm trying to keep everyone's brain attached. So if I go to browse mode over here, I create a new record. I got CO1. If I go to browse mode over here, I got NO1. If I create another new record, it does N2. So we know we have this primary key over here. This is a unique key that can never be repeated. It should not ever be repeated. There's tricks, things you can do with that. But if I never edit it, and I keep creating new records over here. I'm creating new records, lots of new records. I create new record, new record, new record. They will never be duplicate. They will always be unique because FileMaker's and every time you create a new record, it's forcing a incremental upgrade. Same over here. So I have 37 records over here. If I go to a list, I'm going to get rid of the top navigation. I'm going to make this a little smaller here, and I got the note here. Browse mode. So there was the first one up here, right? So record 1, record 2. I could probably put a line on here because it's hard to see that once again. So you put a line in here. Good enough for us. We can see all that. Browse mode. So here's your records. Bang, 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 bang. Pretty straightforward, okay? Notice the date auto-entered for us. Really great. Wonderful, okay? So now here's the rub. N1 is over here, but we really don't want to connect the note to the contact. It's really the contact. We want to, like rubber stamp it that the note belongs to that contact. So how do we do that? We have to create a foreign key. So yesterday you should have covered primary keys and foreign keys. I assuming we
Yes, we
discussed
do,
this.
but we have a quick question about it.
Okay.
Is it best to have every table reference the same unique primary key or identifier?
Every table will have its own unique key or identifier. So this has its own right here. This one has its own. Every table will have its own unique key identifier. If you don't have that, that's like the stuff that's going on right now with Claris, the studio stuff we looked at. Claris is demonstrating this new stuff. They don't even have a primary key in there we can use. So how can you connect it to anything? You really can't. So anyway, so yeah, you must have at least one good primary key in each table. So I call it ID, although I could have called it primary key contact. I could have called anything. I tend to call everything ID underscore and then the table. And the reason I do that is that I will start to have multiples and they group together in the field definitions. You'll see it here in a second. So I'm over here. What I need to do is I need to go to tables. I need to edit the contacts table or the notes table. I'm in notes. I need to define a new field. This window is way too big. So let me do that. There we go. I'm going to create ID underscore. I'm in notes. An ID underscore contact. And you're like, oh, I'm totally confused. ID. There we go. And then I'm going to say underscore, and I'm going to put an option F. It's this little cursive kind of F for foreign key. Foreign key. I'm going to create that. It does not auto enter. It will take on whatever value we shove into it. So if I go to OK, it's on here now. So I'm going to go to layout mode. I'm going to make this key a little smaller right here. I'm going to put this key up. Oop, there we go. Try that again. Move it up there together. Pretend like you know what you're doing. Make it a little smaller. Browse mode. Okay, notice if I create more new records, new record, these aren't auto-populating, okay? So how do we connect them, right? So you have to so here's Brenda, because this is going to allow me to segue directly into one-to-many relationships, which you should have covered yesterday. One-to-many relationships allows us that if say we over here we're on this screen, and I sent Brenda PayPal for $100. Okay, there's a note down there. There's a note. Now it's not. I made a note about Brenda, and there's Brenda over here. In fact, I can create another new record over here. I got Tom, I got Ed, I got Foxy Jack, Foxy Jack. I probably spelled that incorrectly. Anyway, so these are the contacts I have over here, but Brenda's number 1. So if I want to attach those, this value right here has to go into the foreign key. Now I connect it, and wait for it. Nothing happens. Because while they're connected, you can't see the connection because there's nothing dependent upon it yet. There's nothing to show. So if I'm on over here, I go back to layout mode, Command or Control L. I can, there's a couple different ways of doing it. Let me just show let me see. I mean, you could do this actually about 10 different ways, but you could actually come over here and you see that you have notes. We're on contacts layout on notes. Here's notes, right? Go back over here to contacts. What I would do is probably drag a field down from here, right? From up here, you could drag a field down, and it says, contacts. Now, right here, very important, it says related tables, right? There are no related tables to contacts yet. So we have to, it's Command Shift D, we have to kind of manage the database. We're going to come back up here. We're looking at our tables. They'll come over here. They're not connected. We got to connect them. So I'm going to connect. I'm going to zoom in again. If it'll, seems to not remember this. I'm going to connect ID primary to the foreign key right here. Okay. And because now it's a connection, it puts it at the top. Notice that you have a single line over here and it does this little crow's feet thing over here. That's a one-to-many. Okay. And then if I double click on this, it brings up the relationship and allows us to edit, turn things on. On this side over here, so on the right, there's a right side right here and a left side right here. So it says allow creation of records in this table, and that would be the notes side right here. Allow creation in the notes table via this relationship. Yes. Allow the deletion of records. I think that's a bad idea. Generally stay away from that. And don't turn on sorts unless you need them, right? Because that can be a performance hit. But this one here is a great one to have on. You say, okay. I say, okay. Now they're also connected. And now you can see it right here, right? And I can put the note. Okay, so here we go. So this gets us back to kind of where I think everyone left off yesterday. So now it's connected, okay? So if I make it a little smaller, so here's our note. And so we have this one down here. So if I come over here and I connect and I say, we create another new record. And I say, Brenda faxed me, okay? Whatever she faxed me, doesn't matter. But we have to connect it, so we're going to connect it the hard way right now. I'm going to say CO11. So that'll establish the relationship. All right, ready? Nothing happens. Because the way it works in a relational database, and pretty much all databases, but especially in FileMaker, is that if you bring over a related value right here, like a single field, there can be like 5 or 10 related or 100 related records. It's only going to show you the first one. Well, the first one was the PayPal, right? That was the first one. So you're like, well, can I put another one here? Let me put another one here. Okay, great. Let me put another one here. Browse mode. See, it keeps homing in on the first one. So how do you show more than one? You need to put this on a portal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have both of these still here. I'm going to leave them right here. I'm going to come up here to portal. I think that's portal. That's a portal object. I'm going to drag a portal right here. The portal is your window through one ship, one table to the other side. You're looking through to the other side. But allows you to see not just one. You don't need, if all you have is a one-to-one relationship, there's only one-to-one, you don't need a portal, right? So if I come over here and I say, show me the related records, I'm in contact, show me the related records through a relationship, 2 notes. Great. And there's a bunch of options here. We're not going to bother. Just leave it default mode. It says, what kind of fields do you want over here? I'm not going to do it. I just let it be blank. Okay. So we go back to browse mode. What happens? Nothing. Okay. So now, remember this field here was right here. They're both showing you the first related record. If I put this right here and I come down here like this, I go to browse mode. The portal allows me to see multiple related records if there are any. Okay. If I come over here and I go back and I edit this record right here, I say it's a CO1 phone call with Brenda. Okay. What's going to happen? It's going to come over here, right? Right. What will the order be? What will the order be over here? I didn't put a sort order in. What's the default order? Right? Phone call weaseled its way to the top. The default behavior with FileMaker on almost all things is if you don't specify a sort order, it'll be the order the records were created. So strictly speaking, I created this one up here before I created these. So it was this one, then the PayPal, and then the fax at the end. Okay, so that's what portals are. Okay. And so as you start to build what you see right here, Margaret, if we have any questions on this, let me know. Pretty straightforward. Creation order. Yeah, perfect. So if you go to a CRM, like our CRM, here's our CRM. If I go over here to contacts, okay, right here, I'm on Paul, or let's go to, let's say, the first record. So here is Bob Richards. Right, this right here is a portal. If I go to layout mode, this is the exact same notes portal. It's been pimped up. I polished it. I shined it up. Actually, Michael did all the work. I just yelled a lot about it, but he polished it. So this is the notes, the equivalent thing of what we built over here, wherever it went, right? That equivalent item is right here. Here's our contact record. This is our notes right there. Now, there's a lot of little buttons, and we made it a little bigger and changed the font. But the point is that you understand how this works. Because if you understand this, then you understand kind of how this works. And since I've already built this for you, it's good to know it. It's good to learn it, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So what happens in the world is as you're building a solution or you're in starting point customizing it, you end up in a situation where you keep adding things together and adding things together and adding things together. And before long, your relational diagram doesn't look cute and snuggly anymore. This is cute and snuggly. And this over here is starting to become a mess. In fact, it's past mess. And understand that, once again, I will go back to the first thing I was trying to say, is that you have these are base tables, okay? These are representatives. It's like your attorney. I represent the accused. So these are like representatives. They're table occurrences. If I delete this certification test question, if I go in here and delete this, okay, will it delete the base table? No, because they're not specifically attached to each other. So, however, a layout. So then, if you come over here, if I say, I'm going to rename. If I double click it, I can come over here and rename it. I'll call it the notes TO. All that, and I go to contacts TO. Okay, so I just changed the name a little bit. Did I change the name of the table? No. The base tables, these are representatives over here. I can have other representatives of this table. I can come over here and I can duplicate this thing 100 times, okay? That's all legal, okay? Totally legal, okay? So if I say okay, I'm going to save the change. I go to layout mode. Here I'm in layout mode. I'm going to get rid of my side components here so it's nice and trim, slim and trim. Look what it says up here. You're attached to a table. Contacts to you. You're like, that ain't really a table. See, it's mislabeled. It's only been this way for 30 years. Okay, so they're not going to fix it because they don't want to move the furniture because everyone's basically learned it the wrong way, right? So that's what's happened. So that should say table occurrence or TO. Because it does point to the table eventually, but the more important part that you've got to understand, it's not so much about the base table. It's really what really affects it is that table occurrence. Because, like, for example, if I direct, what ends up happening, and this is such an important discovery, is if I go back to field definitions and I'm over here, and I create another context table. Right? Say it's on here more than once. And it's kind of important, right? There's a reason for this. Duplicate button, there it is. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to go to that. So here's contacts too. So I could have that one connected to a bunch of other stuff. Contacts could be, and I can attach my layout to any one of these. And when I attach my layout to any one of these, this is a super important thing. The stuff it can see is limited to its little lines. Okay, so those are called table occurrence groups. So if I connect this here, and it doesn't matter, I'm just going to do this, okay? Logically, there's no reason for this, but you're going to have a relationship that looks like this. See this right here? Those items right there connected together, that's a table occurrence group. So this is a table occurrence group, So it's a TOG, and a group of TOGs is a herd of TOGs, like elephants or something. Or antelope or deer or something. It's a herd. A herd of TOs is called a TOG, right? New word for you, a herd. So if I have a layout attached to, remember, a layout has to be attached to a TO. So every layout I build on screen has to be attached to one of these. If I attach it to this, I can see contacts. If I come over here and attach my context or my layout to this one, what can it see? It can't see anything. Now that's good and bad. This right here is essentially a situation where every table occurrence is attached to every other table occurrence. Because if you start building stuff logically, like one of you, like I was just going to pick on Ken, hot air balloon Ken, he's actually much better than this. But when Ken first started, or I first started, you just keep connecting everything together. Like, well, this one goes to that, and then this one comes over here, and then this one goes over here, and then, and you do it that way because there's some sort of logic, and it works. It totally works. It's I'm going to move this out of the way. You got this one right here. And so you end up with all of these cross-connected, right? And the problem is that, so you could go right here and you go on all the way through here and you go here and you go then here and then here and then here. This can work. But there's some real serious issues with this, not the least of which is that FileMaker, when you go to a layout, this is so important. When you go to a layout, as a developer, you mentally need to understand if it doesn't work. Someone says, hey, layout doesn't work. You're like, okay, I'll figure that out because I'm a professional developer. I know. Brenda, becoming an awesome developer, and she's working on this, right? Which is totally cool. But somehow she's built a house of cards, and I'm picking on her just because. That's fine. Sorry, it could be random person. I don't know which Brenda I'm talking about. It's a generic Brenda. But the point is that you can see all this stuff, but can you really tell me what the data will look like? It has to pass all the way through this. The mental gymnastics for you are going to be formidable. Okay. So like over here, if I'm going to cancel this, but if I went to the original relationship, it was pretty simple. It was a contact primary key to the contact foreign key in notes. It makes sense. So if something doesn't show up, you can triage this. This is a real mess. Not only that, when you open up a layout in FileMaker, okay, you come to a layout here, FileMaker has to load that tog into memory. If it's on the server, you're on the client, across the internet, around the world, it has to load that tog, the TOG, all that information into memory. See, the way FileMaker works for performance, it doesn't load everything it needs into memory all the time. It doesn't do that. It only loads what it needs to do. So if I'm over here on a layout right here, all it has to do is load this data right here and this data right here, and it's set. On this one, assuming these were all different tables, contacts, invoices, projects, purchase orders, timesheet, staff, blah, 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 blah. It has to load all that into memory. It has to think about it. And so as it's rendering your layout, it's going processing, and it throws it on the screen. Well, if you make a giant ugly mess over here, it has to process your giant ugly mess. It makes it slower. So having an organizational method, A, makes your life simpler because you can kind of follow it, and B, it makes the performance go much faster. And it's not my opinion. It's scientifically tested by other professional developers in the community, of which I know them very, very well. So what I'm going to do is talk about what you end up moving to. So if we go back to our PDF, kind of coming around the corner on this, you kind of see where this is kind of going. So you start off with something like this. You're like, I'm building a solution. And maybe, and here's the deal. You will build it and it will work because you built it kind of organically, progressively. Maybe it took you 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, a year, whatever you did. And you end up with something like this over here. But it works. Then you go on vacation for a month, 2 months, 6 months. You're out. Maybe you have an accident, car accident. You're getting healed. You come back. And maybe you don't remember how this works so much. The problem is that you got kind of a mental mess. So it's mentally hard for you to process. It's hard for FileMaker to process, even though it's a computer and it's supposed to be fast. It can only do so much. And so what you end up doing is you start reorganizing it and you end up with something like this. Like, well, that's a lot more organized, right? That's pretty good. Problem here is that we still have effectively one table occurrence, right? All these are connected. So if I start, like, actually, that one right there is a separate one. You see that? It's not connecting anything. That's a little tog. But if I'm over here on this, I can go from here to here to here, and then to here, and then wherever else I can go. It becomes a real mess. So this is called a spider diagram. So a spider diagram is kind of what you either end up with a complete mess, and if you try to clean a little bit, then your complete mess starts to look like this. What you need to do once again, this is my little Lego guy, Lego person. He or she cannot see from one end to the other end very neatly, right? It's hard to see, it's hard to calculate. It makes the performance of your solution slower. We're not going to talk a lot about performance in this course, except for this kind of blatant issue that you have right here. So what you want to do is adopt what we call the Anchor-Buoy model, right? Any questions along the way?
Uh,
Ruben.
nope. Just to mention that table groups were asked about yesterday, but we were told to be covered today. So.
Okay. Well, so what we've done is that what you can end up doing is you end up building a solution with Anchor-Buoy. So right off you see that not there. This is out of starting point. This is our free CRM that we gave you. So what we're teaching you, we eat our own dog food, right? I don't know if folks have ever heard that before, right? A lot of companies, like the Samsung vice president, who was Samsung, and it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And he's like, Samsung's the best phone ever. It's the most amazing phone. He's tweeting and TikToking and doing whatever he or she is doing. And then at the bottom it says, sent from an iPhone. So the Samsung employee was using an iPhone to tell everyone how good his Android was. Okay, that's called not eating your own dog food. If you are a true professional in the world, if you are a vice president for Toyota, you drive a Toyota vehicle to demonstrate how great your product is. Okay, or a Lexus or whatever the high-end one of the Toyota is, right? You don't use someone else's stuff and then say how great your stuff is. This is because it's credibility, right? We eat our own dog food. That's why I can train you, because I know what I know. So these are what we did is we built this as table occurrence groups. They're small, cuddly, manageable groups. This is a table occurrence group. They're small, they're cuddly, and it actually helps you. There's a rule on how you build these things, right? And it helps you follow this. So instead of spewing, listen, when you're building your first solution, Brenda or everyone else out there, feel free to throw it together and make a mess, okay? But at some point, you want to come back and do a little cleanup on it, and you need to kind of reorganize it. I think your very first time you build in FileMaker, I think if you can get it to work at all, that's great. Don't worry about this. But as you get past that first round of success, think about that every layout you create should be on an anchor. So let's talk about what this looks like on this. So this is our diagram. This is, you can see how we, clearly that is one screenshot off the relational diagram, okay? And so instead of all cross-connected, we have these little separate distinct units. Here's another screenshot of how Claris had another diagram. They didn't call it Anchor-Buoy. This is Anchor-Buoy. This is a table occurrence group right here, right? So that's a parent, child, grandchild, great-grandchild, great-great-grandchild. You don't really want to get too deep here, because the farther you go down, if your layout's over here, the farther you're displaying data through here, the slower FileMaker will go, okay? Just the way that is. So let's talk about how this works. There's some information here. So this is the idea. This is the anchor on the left. On the right, these are the buoys. These are the supporting elements. So here's what you do. We're going to build a contacts layout over here. This is what you say to yourself. We're going to walk through this verbally. I'm building the contacts table. I don't want to use FM starting point. I want to build it from scratch myself. Okay, fine. So you start with a contacts table. You put notes in here. Then you say, oh, I need related accounts. So then you create an accounts table and you connect it. And so what you end up is that you will, if you're following Anchor-Buoy, you will connect these items. And so the reason we call it the anchor, these the buoys, that this is what you attach your layouts to. You never attach your layouts over here. You attach the layouts over here. So, because people always like, well, I don't know where the layout attaches. Like if I go back up here to this spaghetti mess, I don't know which of these have a layout attached. Probably that one does. It seems like it's kind of important. But where might the layouts be attached, and what can they see? And remember, the layout, here's the idea, is that you only put on the table occurrence group what it needs to see. So as you're building contacts out, you only put the TOs. Why don't you put all the TOs on it? Well, that's what you did over here, and you get a performance hit. It goes slower. Because remember, it has to think about all that. It has to load it all literally into RAM memory and process it to figure out what you need to see. So instead, build the layout, decide you're going to build a layout, and then as you start to adding supporting items on here, say we have a little a button bar on here, and we have notes, and we have maybe the related invoices or something like that. You only are over here adding, so I'm going to get rid of these. You're only, so say we want to add, we're working on our project, we have context, I want to add um, invoices, okay? For some reason. Say you want to build this very common, basic thing. So I want to build a invoices table, create a table. So this is base table, right? So there's your invoice over here. I can go into here. It's got these. FileMaker actually builds a primary key for you, but they put all these crazy conditions on here, and it makes learning really hard. Can't auto modify, can't require it. It's required, right? It's just like, ugh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to define an ID, right? ID invoice, right? This will be what? The primary key. Can we build it with a text? Yes, we'll build it with text. I'm going to, for training purposes like this, I don't use any UUIDs. If you know what a UUID is, that's great. It's a random 32-digit code is what a UUID is, essentially. A random 32-digit code. Instead, I'm just going to use a basic serial number. I'm going to say INV invoice, and then this is invoice 1. Or I could make it invoice 500. It doesn't really matter, and it'll go up by 1. I say, okay, that's great. I'm going to put, I'm going to say dollar amount of the invoice, just so I have something in here. I'm going to say that. I'm going to create that. And then since I go over to relationships, I'm like, I want to connect the invoice. So I kind of line it up over here because we're doing Anchor-Buoy, right? We're doing Anchor-Buoy. So our layout's attached here. We want to add an invoices portal. We know we got to connect. Richard said on Thursday that we have to have a foreign key over here. Okay, we'll put a foreign key, but there's no foreign key in here, so we have to define that. So the invoice has to have a contact ID on it so we can attach it to Brenda. So I go back over here. I'm going to go back over to fields. I'm on invoices. I'm going to say ID, INV, invoice, ID, sorry, contact. Thank you. And then the little option on the Mac, option F, or you could do a regular F for foreign, but if option F is this weird curly F, and I'm going to say create. No auto enter on that, right? Okay. Oops. So here I am. Nothing really happens yet. I go back to Command Shift D on my left hand. Relationships. Here it is. So I have the prime ID contact prime. I'm going to zoom in. Let me zoom in. How many training places can you go and you get custom sound effects? I'm being serious. This doesn't happen. So ID primary key right here. If you grab it and you have your sound turned up on your computer, you'll hear ding. Okay, there you go. Like the Pop-Tarts popping out of your toaster if you've ever had a toaster. So we want it to auto-create an invoice for us. Come down here and say auto-create. That's fine. Okay. So what we've done is we've kind of built this, and then what you can do is there's on these table occurrences, there's 3 stages. There's like, show me everything, show me just the connections, and just give me the title, right? So then you end up something like this. So you start lining it up like this, and then before long, you start to get something that starts to look like your relationship design. So you're building, so you build the layout, and then you let the table occurrence group support what you need on that layout. The table occurrence group should only have what you need just to support that layout. So if you come down here, this is a contact data entry screen. These are all the elements in this that we had notes in here. There was a couple different notes, a couple different contacts, different reasons, maybe an invoice projects. And these are just the TOs that were needed to support this one layout and nothing more, okay? So here's another explanation once again. Table occurrence group, table occurrence group, table occurrence group, okay? Anchors on the left. In this case, it doesn't have to be left and right. We just do left and right because it's simple. That way we read, at least here where I'm at, we read left to right, okay? If you're in Japan, maybe you do it the other way, okay? These are buoys. And so the layouts are only attached over here, right? And it says 1 anchor per base table, okay? Yeah, not necessarily. I can think of reasons that this would not necessarily be valid, okay? I could see that you could have 2 separate contact screens. Say you have a contact screen for people, your salespeople out in the field on their iPhones of all things. They're using FileMaker Go on their iPhone. I don't know my iPhone here. Of your iPhone. And they only need to see a couple things. Then you have the super duper duper gnarly contact screen like that one up here you saw a little bit ago with all those items on it. Well, if you build a layout for the people who are remote, right? And you make all these things in here, their little FileMaker Go on their little iPhone or Android device or whatever they're using on WebDirect has to process all this. It'd be better if they had their own layout, their own contacts layout, and it only had the TOs on it that needed, so it'd be that much less they had to download over the cellular radio connection, right? So you could actually have contacts for whatever, and you could have contacts for your salespeople on an iPhone. And that could make a big performance difference. So sometimes the people who put these rules together, these go back a number of years, it's kind of a guideline, but I could see where this wouldn't necessarily apply. But you don't put layouts on the right side.
Question on YouTube that's not the endless spam. When I have a table that's already filled and I make a connection with a layout, then is the portal empty?
If there's no functional relationship, the portal would be empty. Right? So what you're asking me, it's kind of like it'll just like it's like saying, okay, there are 4 ships in the harbor. Okay. Well, actually, you don't know. You're on the okay. Have anyone taken a cruise before on a cruise ship? I did. I was kind of bummed. A, I couldn't land the helicopter, be on it. I'd rather much be on an aircraft, and I mean this very seriously. I'd rather be on an aircraft carrier or a cruiser or something than be on a public cruise ship. But that being said, say you're on a cruise ship and you have no window in your room. They call them a stateroom. You have no room in your window, and so putting a portal on your layout is like cutting a hole in the side of the ship for you to look outside. So you call the captain, Captain, this is Ken. I'm Hot Air Balloon Ken. I'm a very important member of the media. I'm Elon Musk's best friend. If you don't do something for me, Elon Musk is probably going to buy out your company and fire you. So you're going to do exactly what I say. I want to see out my window, and I don't have a window. So the captain comes down with a little saw, cuts a hole in the side of the ship. What are you going to see? It depends what's out there, right? You're cutting a hole to look through to related data. Is there any related data? If there's no other ships, no related data, you might open up that window and see the ocean and nothing else there. But if there's other related data, it's going to show that to you. So you're turning on a window or turning off a window. It doesn't predicate, that doesn't tell you that data's there or will or won't be there. It's just allowing you to see it. Because remember over here, remember as I built this over here, let's go over here, go back to browse mode. I'm on Brenda, but let's go to Ken. No, Foxy Jack. Foxy Jack wants a hole in his window, okay? So we come over here. I can create records through here. Like I can click on this because remember we turned on that little checkbox. So notice over here, I have 47 records, right? I'm on the very last record down here. It's Brenda faxed me. I could say, I want a window in my room. Or else. Now, notice I'm typing and nothing's happened yet. We still have the same number. Oh, did I click out? I did. Nope. No. We're okay. We haven't clicked out. So we're still over here. It's still selected. If I click out, it saves the change. And look what happened over here. It added that record. And then it popped up here. Why did it pop up here? These are the same fields, but this will only show you the first related record, and these will show you additional related records. It might not be there, right? It just depends if you have any connections for that data. Like if I come over here, and so if I'm in layout mode, and I'm gonna delete this, right? I'm in browse mode. I'm gonna create a new one. I'm gonna say Wally. I put Wally over here. Wally, I'm going to go to layout mode. I'm going to put on a portal here. Will data show up or not? Well, is there any related Wally data over here? If there's no related Wally data, you cut a hole in the side of the ship, there's nothing to see. Doesn't mean it's not working. It just means the data's not there, right? It's really important. These are like hugely fundamental concepts is why, and I'm not in any way picking on anyone here. Absolutely not. I have an unfair advantage doing this 32 whatever years. I've been doing this for 32 years. I only got good at this after about 5 years, really good at understanding relationships. So people go into business, they say, for example, there's a company down in Santa Clara, I won't mention their name. They make lasers for a certain military, the Army and the Air Force. I'm not going to tell you what the lasers do. Well, they put the lasers on front of a helicopter. It guides a Hellfire missile. Oh, am I saying not classified? I'm having fun. But they need to build a database and it had nothing to do with CRM. They're manufacturing lasers, literally military support lasers. I'm sure they put them on UAVs now and everything else. They manufacture these down there, so they have a record, and I can't remember what they called it. They called it a special name, but it's almost like it was like a clipboard. In the old days, they would have a clipboard you would start building a laser, and there would be a clipboard, and then in this piece of metal hardware thing would be going down a conveyor belt with a clipboard next to it. It would get to the next person. Next person does a quality check or screws some screws or puts on a piece of glass and whatever, some wires. Then they initially sign it, and it keeps going. It's called a traveler. It was called a traveler. And so this thing would be almost like in a bin or a bucket. It goes down the conveyor belt. So they had to understand that, well, we have a traveler. What is a traveler? Well, we're making lasers. So there's a laser that's being manufactured. It's at a traveler. It's going to talk. So you have a laser. That's a device, not even a laser, but let's say it's a device for manufacturing. And then it's going to go down this conveyor belt at this location. So there's a locations table, and then on which assembly line, and then which people have talked to it. So you can see 4 or 5 tables instantly and start to build your layout. But you build your layout, and you're like, I really need to see the people that worked on it. Well, then you have to add that and build the portal for it.
We have a quick question from Edward Whittle.
All right, Edward.
When you create a new note, how does the primary key from contacts get stored in the notes table?
So let's just demo this, right? So remember up here, this is our contacts. These are our notes. Up here, I check this option. That's the option that does it right there. So, but let me just turn this off. So we'll start with that. So if I'm over here and I create it was Ed. What was it? Edward? Ed W. Okay, Ed W. Okay, and I want to now over here. There's no Ed W's over here, but specifically, there's no con 6s over here. So if I come over here and do a find for con 6, doesn't exist. So Ed doesn't have any notes yet over here, okay? So I can either, with scripting processes, I can create some data here, have a script come over here, create a new record, set his ID here, and then come back and refresh. You can totally do it that way, and sometimes we do. So you can do this a bunch of different ways. You can create the records yourself manually by hand, or script it, which could be useful if you want to really precisely control it. But if I come over here and start typing, notice it's tab, 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 and I'm clicking and ain't nothing happening. Ain't nothing happening. That's because there's no related data. And FileMaker has not been told it can auto create the record. So what happens if I come over here and I turn this on? So it says allow the creation of note records via this relationship. I say okay. So then what happens? You say okay, and if I click in here, okay, now notice it still says 51 over here. I'm going to click them over here. It's 51. It hasn't created yet. I start typing. Now it's letting me type. Now, basically, FileMaker won't save the change or commit the record until I kind of exit. So I say, Ed wants a new car, okay? And I'm going to quote him or something, whatever, right? Nothing's happened yet. If I click out, FileMaker is going to go, hey, I'm going to copy this value. I'm just giving you these words. It's going to copy the value, come over here, create a new record, paste the primary key here into the foreign key to those little connection at the top, creating the new record, and then it's going to set this data in there, okay, in that order. So I'm going to click out. You're going to watch the number increment up there, 52. It created the new record, or created a new record, stuck the primary key over here into the foreign key over here, right? And then it put the note, and now it's functional, right? So really, if you think about it logically, this is where it's kind of the important part here, and I can see people struggling with this a little bit, right? And that is understanding that you have a primary key. Every table has a primary key. So there's a primary note, remember the in, whatever. Now notice that we haven't really done anything over here with the in, but if we want to attach into something else, we're going to need that. So you always build a primary key. You always have it in there, right? And so you really can't, because remember, it's counting and it's always unique, right? You could, I think you could, some people are like, well, why don't you attach the two keys together? Because remember the note this note belongs to this contact. It's like in the old days. It's an old analogy, and I don't know how many. So the other back in the day, I went and visited some people that have since passed away, and they would be 150 years old, 200 years old now, and they say, "Hey, Richard Carlton's here to meet you," and they go, "The Carltons are cattle rustlers." Right? From like, so apparently I was an outlaw. My family were outlaws like 200 years ago or something. They stole cows. What is stealing cows? That's like stealing a car. Okay. They're a bunch of car thieves. Okay. Um, and so, but they didn't have cars back then. They had cows and horses. Right. So the way you would mark your cow is that you would brand the cow. That's putting your primary key on the cow. So they go, and the cow's like, right? So you take this hot piece of metal and you put your name or your brand on there, and you basically tattoo the fur of the cow. So as people see the cow or the horse or whatever, they know who it belongs to. It's not like you can't really ask the cow, "Hey, who do you belong to?" And the cow's like, "Oh, Foxy Jack," right? They don't talk. So you have to, the records don't talk. So you have to mark them. So the way relational databases work is the way we've organized things since the dawn of time, right? People mark their property. Well, primary key is the way you mark your property. Now you could put every record could be Foxy Jack in here, Foxy Jack, Foxy Jack, Foxy Jack, Foxy Jack. But really, you want to be able to tell the different cows apart. So if you were going to, if we went back to the old days, I would be like, can we put a barcode on the cow's butt somehow? So it'd be like your number and then a unique ID for the cow, right? And that's really what this is over here. This is the cow. So we have the contact record. It's Richard's cow, right? And then over here you would have a unique barcode. Figure out a way to like. I wouldn't want to be hit with a red hot cattle thing. So find a different way. Spray paint the cow's butt. Right? Spray paint the cow, but put the primary key on the cow, use the barcode on the cow. So you come up like you're riding your horse. Out comes a laptop and a barcode gun. Zap. Building relationships, don't let it freak you out. And if you get stuck, please email me. Just email us at support RC Consulting there. Richard, I'm stuck understanding relationships. And then tell me about your business and we can help you. We'll tell you more or less what the answers are pretty close. So anyway, so that's the idea, right? So, Carltons, you found out Carltons were cattle rustlers. It was a shock to me. I've never stole a car or a cow in my life. But that idea of kind of having property and kind of, in a business, because remember, cows are like cars. They were just property, right? And so you wanted to mark them so that you could tell if they went somewhere and whose it was. Any other questions from anyone on topics here? I want to make sure you understand this because...
One from Martin Willman. When you want to have notes of the contacts, and let's say you make notes also in invoices, would you have to make different note labels? No, note tables.
That's a really good question. All right, so Martin, this is an excellent, fantastic question. I'm going to keep going. So for those of you who don't like Martin or don't want to hear the answer, you can leave. This is really great. So I'm going to zoom down a smidge to make this a little more palatable. So Martin says, "Hey, I have invoices." So we're going to have an invoices layout. It won't take us long to do this. Okay. So we want an invoices layout. Okay. And so, well, what's our rule? The layout gets attached to its own anchor on a table occurrence group. So if I go back over here, I have TOG number 1. I have this invoices right here. Here's invoices. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get rid of this one right here. It's somewhat redundant. I got invoices right here. Okay. So this is going to be TOG number 1. This will be TOG number 2. I'm not going to cross connect the TOGs because that will shoot the performance and make my life difficult. So what I'm going to do is but my invoice has to talk to notes. We want to make a note on our invoice. You're like, okay, well, we already have a notes table. Do I need another notes table? You could. But you could use the existing notes table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say, give me a new table relationship. I'm going to do notes. I could have duplicated this one, but it's like I said, anything else. So this is going to be a separate notes. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to name this T01 contacts. And so that tells me that that's part of that table occurrence group. This is going to be a second table occurrence group. At the top, I'm going to say TO2. We'll talk about numbering stuff at some point someday, but it makes life easier. So then you'll have over here, you'll have TO1 and then a little A. See that right there? And that way what we do is as we start connecting these, I got TL1A, TL1B, TL1C if we had other ones here. So this one right here is going to be what? What? Anyone? Can't hear anyone. It's going to be TO2A. Right? Makes sense. So, and that's it. You don't technically need this, but if you need a big relational diagram, you'll see us numbering stuff, especially looking starting point. So I need to connect this. And you say, well, I want to connect the invoice primary key to the foreign key down here. It's really an invoice foreign key, right? We're trying to brand this cow, different set of cows with a different name. It really needs to be, you could do this, it might work, but you probably run into problems at some point. I couldn't even begin to tell you what would happen there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to fields, I'm going to go to invoice notes, and I'm going to say, hey, I need another. This is why I start putting the names together, because then they start grouping together. Now I'm going to have ID invoice foreign key. Create. There it is. All right, I say okay, or I go back to relationships. I'm going to connect primary key to the foreign key over here, and I'm going to turn on the auto create. So now if I go to a new window, say new window, and I'm going to jump over to invoices, I want to see what it's, I don't really know what it's connected to because it's the first time I've been to this layout. I got layout mode. It's connected to this anchor, TO2 invoices. See that? So once again, that's not base table, that's the table occurrence, okay? And so then if I put in here, once again, the note, I'm in, see, look at, it's, this is where you're at. This is the layout where you're at. These are the things you can relationally get. These are the unrelated things you cannot get because they're not cross-connected. TO1 is not connected to TO2. So I want this notes right here. I want a related table for my TOG. Okay. There you go. There's your note. Browse mode. Same thing as before, right? So we come over here. I create a new record over here. Invoice. I'm just going to call this the $500. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It should be attached to someone. And I've got an ID foreign contact here, but I'm not using that, right? Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this one I don't really need because we're not using it. I'll set it over here. Okay. So we go to browse mode. If I click in here and type something, you'll see something pop up over here. Hello world. Okay. Come down here. We have hello world. It's not attached to a foreign key. What's it attached to? It's attached to the other foreign key, right? So I've got this foreign key right here. I'm going to use an option key or alt key on my Mac, bring it over here. It makes a copy. I double click it. I change it to the invoice foreign key. I'm going to adjust my label, browse mode. So notice down here, this one auto entered because it was created in contacts. This one auto entered because it was created in invoices, but we're still using the same notes field. So if you were searching for notes, you'd have one location to go. Like, sometimes we have that, like someone will reach out to RCC. We haven't talked to them in 15 years. I swear this name is familiar. It happens to some of you. I swear this name's familiar. Where did we meet this person before? Have we worked for them before? Have they paid us before? What's our relationship? We can't remember. So we do a search in notes. The goal is to have a single notes area that you can search on. Well, I can search here for notes. I've ever seen Ken, hot air balloon Ken. Well, what if I have another notes section? Well, it didn't show up here. Let me go over there and search on that one too. Let me go over the other one, search on that one too. Having a single notes table is pretty awesome because it allows you to do one search, and then you could come back and you say, what if we said it was Brenda? Okay, I got two Brenda hits, okay, and they're both, there's her, and she's out of contacts right here, right? And I could build a button here, press a button, and it goes over here to Brenda. Videos. Yes, let's talk about videos. Yeah. Videos, we started posting them. So here are the recorded videos, a button right here. Eventually, when you come to this page, it will just go to the videos automatically. If I press this button right here, we're still kind of finalizing it up here a little bit, but we have the first 3 recordings, and then those are day 1, day 2, day 3. We're on day, what, 7 today?
Yes, today is day 7.
They're going to be busting it out and getting caught up, okay, on this. So these are, yeah, so you're going to have all 30 in here, right? So there you go. Recordings for you. Once again, more free stuff for you. Once again, if you want to support the channel, I know we're late. Don't forget to go to the bundle section and purchase one of our bundles, especially the complete bundle. Helps us pay for all this wonderful stuff you're getting, including the free training. Okay, we greatly appreciate it. So tomorrow we're going to pick up the conversation. If anyone has any Anchor-Buoy questions, we can talk about a little bit more, or we can go into many to many. Bring your thinking caps. Tomorrow is going to be a while. Also, tomorrow is the opening day for Top Gun Maverick. And since I'm a pilot, that's a big deal for me. So I will be at the movie theater tomorrow night. So we're all going to wear our headsets tomorrow. So we'll be in fighter pilot outfits tomorrow. It'll be awesome. So bring your headset, like your fighter pilot headset, or helmet, I should say, not headset. That'll be cool. All right, everyone. So see you later.